All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's see if that's actually the case before we get into this. I will be doing super chats. They are available cross-platform. However, mainly this is a rant with regards to the invasion of Ukraine by the Russians. First, we got to make sure that Rumble's working. Just bear with me. Give me a second, everyone that's already joined. Let's see. Reload. Come on. You know you want to take the stream. My Luddite tech difficulties. My boomerism. Come on. If I press play, will that help? And by the way, I do have my lime water. No clanking necessary at the moment. We are indeed live on Rumble. Okay. So Russia has indeed invaded Ukraine. Unfortunate, not unforeseen. We've seen that coming for some time now. I realize this is an odd time to stream, early in the morning Eastern time. If you're in the United States, of course, it is a Thursday. So I don't expect maybe as many people to show up as otherwise would. Although I have a feeling some people have taken a sick day. Actually, there are almost 1,000 people watching on YouTube and over 100 on Rumble. But this is not a jovial time. Of course, one thing I want to make perfectly clear. I am completely anti-war. The idea of a bunch of Ukrainians and Russians dying and suffering, the people that they love, their family members, their friends, etc., their communities suffering is not a good thing. So let's not be too jovial. I understand the idea of memetics, of memeing about affairs of state. Right now, though, what you have is an actual invasion, a real war in Europe, by the way. Technically speaking, on the doorstep of the European Union, of which I am now in as a resident of the Netherlands. So yeah, wonderful times. And it'll do great things, by the way, for the economy. Biden actually is already grandstanding about this. And the other day, and I can probably link that. Actually, I made a video about it earlier. Let me link you. If you're watching on YouTube, actually, I did an exclusive this morning, and I'll pop it in really quickly in the chat. Pinned, of course. Well, actually, I won't pin it, but I'll link it in if I can actually get to my post. A little bit touch and go here. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to cover. All right. Yeah, I'm live on YouTube. Who would have known? Okay, I popped in a Rumble link, actually, for those of you on YouTube. You should join me on Rumble because, of course, at any moment, YouTube could decide that I'm an enemy of state and ban me. So, you never know. Just a second here. Let me organize things. Give me like 30 seconds. And also, YouTube is doing this thing now where it, oh, for the love of God. I fucking hate when YouTube does that. I don't even want that open. So yeah, I will be doing super chats. I'll also be doing responses to regular chat. But first, we got to get a few fucking things out of the way. First and foremost, there is Brian Schatz. I think it's Brian Schatz. Let me pull him and Romney up because those are both pertinent to the purposes of this video. I'll be talking about fucking Romney tomorrow. He's the craziest person in the room, whatever room he's in. He could be among a bunch of lunatics. He'd be the craziest war pig. Brian Schatz. It is more essential than ever that we rally around our president, Biden, he's an American, as he leads the free world in response. If your instinct is to try to turn this into a partisan political advantage or a viral tweet, step off the stage. Well, Brian, first and foremost, what did Biden do the other day? He was talking about, hey, well, these sanctions on Russia may harm the economy, but it's our patriotic duty as Western democratic people. What a deflection. Again, I made a video on the topic. Biden is now effectively attempting to deflect his bad economy off on the Russian sanctions, hoping that you will forget the entire last year, by the way, of his poor economy that had nothing to do with Russia being aggressive. So Brian Schatz, echoing exactly the Bush era policies of Republicans, oddly enough. They said basically, buckle down, shut up. Patriotism is to rally around the president. He's going to respond, and it's a very solemn, sanctified thing. You have to do exactly what the president says, and you don't. Here's the thing. You should do the exact opposite. Whatever Biden dreams up as a response to Russia will be a bullshit. It'll be horse shit. That's the truth. It's not going to actually impact Russia. If he wanted to impact Russia in the financial sense, and then that's fine. If you want to do the sanction thing, that's perfectly fine. They've invaded a sovereign nation. Sanction China. China is the financier of all of BRICS, including the Russians. The Russians don't do the money thing. The Russians do the on the ground, we've got a bunch of tanks thing. Sanction the Chinese. But they're too pussy to do it. They're not going to do that. It'd take money from the rich investing class in the United States that, by and large, donated to Beijing Biden. Then we've got Mitt Romney. This is even worse. Part of it makes sense. Part of it is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Putin's Ukraine invasion is the first time in 80 years that a great power has moved to conquer a sovereign nation. It is without justification, without provocation, and without honor. We'll be getting into the proceedings of why this is happening in a moment. It's not entirely just Putin, although he is the main actor in here. Let's not mince words. Putin is responsible for invading Ukraine. He's the leader of Russia. That's undeniable. I will be pointing that out. And by the way, I'll grab my Substack as well here in a minute. I'll open this tab up so that I don't forget. Putin's impunity predictably follows our tepid response to the previous horrors in Georgia and Crimea. Under W, number one, and under Obama, number two, with Biden as VP in the latter case. Just to be clear, Biden was actually in office at the time. Our naive efforts at a one-sided reset, technically speaking, I guess I can't complain about what Romney's saying, although some sort of reset post-Cold War made sense, and the short-sightedness of America first. The 80s called, and we didn't answer. Well, Mitt, you are living in the 80s. You are a war pig, a bastard, a dumbass. You were called, by the way, Hitler when you were running for office. Apparently, you've forgotten who the people that actually backed you were. As a non-Republican, I'm surprised at how stupid this tweet was and how dumb Mitt Romney is. I'm not hugely surprised, though, I suppose, after the last couple of years of watching what he's been up to. The short-sightedness of America first. Do you mean Trump scrapping the intermediate test ban treaty because the Russians weren't following it? Do you mean Trump greenlighting U.S. sorties next to Russia's territory, which is something that wasn't done under Obama for some time because of the provocation aspect of it, because Russia kept doing that to NATO countries? Do you mean the Nord Stream pipeline kerfuffle? Do you mean the fact that the Germans now have taken the fore on that because Biden actually removed the sanctions? What short-sightedness? The idea of the United States, by the way, undercutting China would have done more to prevent this than anything else. So Romney's nuts. The peril of again looking away from Putin's tyranny falls not just on the people of the nations he has violated, bringing up rape. Yeah, I remember binders full of women, Mitt. That'll age well. It falls on America as well. History shows that a tyrant's appetite for conquest is never satiated. Are you insinuating that the Russians are trying to invade the United States? I don't think so, but I think that you're basically handing them Ukraine on a golden platter. And that's globalists. That's people like Mitt Romney. That's not Trump. It's not populism. Populism strengthened NATO. I conveniently, Mitt Romney leaves out the part where Trump demanded that the other NATO partners actually pay their fair share. Apparently, that's a bad thing. We're just supposed to fight. We're supposed to be the China of the Western world, finance everything, and then do some world policing, invade some random Middle Eastern nation that goes rogue, Libya, North Africa, Iraq, maybe in Syria or Afghanistan, and then we're supposed to call it a day. That's his idea of leadership. And this is why Mitt Romney will never be president, by the way. Anyway, let me get the Substack, since a bunch of people are watching now. Let me pop this in YouTube, just a sec. Let me go to my own live stream link. It takes a moment. YouTube used to be a lot better when it came to this, in all honesty. Now you have to go to a totally different tab. By the way, you can't download your videos directly, even if you're the creator. If you go to your own video and you press download, it tries to get you to get YouTube Premium. If you go to your actual videos page, of course, it says, hey, you can download this shit. Let me pop this in and pin it, just for everyone who's watching on YouTube. There, it should be pinned. I did a Substack article on some of the groups that are involved in the blame for what is currently going on. Of course, at number one is Vladimir Putin. He made the executive decision, but a fairly close number two is Joe Biden. His reluctance to take the fore, partially because he's an asterisk president, he's a goddamn steward, not a real leader, has created a situation in which NATO is no longer a homogenous, singular functioning thing. That is, that NATO generally was envisioned as a group of nations under one military umbrella, and the United States was in charge. But if the president of the United States is clearly not with it, if he's a fucking haggard vegetable like Joe Biden, of course, other people will take the fore. Look at what Macron's doing. He's still making statements right now. I think not even long ago. Yeah. French President Emmanuel Macron said in a televised address that Russian President Vladimir Putin, in choosing war with Ukraine, has decided to commit the most serious violation of peace and stability our Europe has seen in decades. Our Europe. Yeah, Macron's Europe, by the way. That's what he has in mind. Was it Biden or was it Macron who mainly was brokering the idea of a peace treaty, of trying to prevent this from happening? It was Macron. It wasn't Joe Biden. Now, I have no problem as a libertarian with the idea of the United States saying, it's happening in Europe. We've got things on our own continent to deal with. That's perfectly fine. And selling weapons to groups. If we want to sell missiles or whatever to Ukraine, that's perfectly fine with me. That's just capitalism. But Joe Biden has totally screwed the pooch on this. And now the legacy media is saying, no, it's Trump's fault. Trump the appeaser. Trump, the appeaser of Putin, who kept Putin from invading for 4 years. Yeah, it was his fault. Has nothing to do with Joe Biden. Anyway, we'll get to some super chats as well. I think I had one other subtopic. Oh, yes, Chernobyl. Apparently, this is a rumor right now. I can't actually tell you that this is true. Story is, coming from the Ukrainians, that the Russians have invaded the Chernobyl exclusion zone and at least one nuclear storage space has been destroyed. Now, nuclear storage in Chernobyl can be a concrete dome over some old gloves, so I'm not too worried about that. But the fact that there is fighting near Chernobyl, I remember that freaked people out. I think it was 2015 or 16. You remember when there were wildfires in the Chernobyl exclusion zone? And people were all up in arms. Oh my God, it's going to release all the radiation from the trees that were there when the first fallout happened. And basically we'll all get cancer and die. Now, of course, it's not going to happen. There's a lot of that is degraded by now. But they were afraid, genuinely, very much afraid. Are you going to show the same fear now that the Russians are, I don't know, lobbing RPGs or something at Chernobyl? You probably should be. That could get out of hand really quickly. But yes, first and foremost, I'd like to address one thing. And this is a question that I've gotten from several people through DM. What side I'm on. I'm on the side of peace and the side of the United States. I do believe in the West. And by the way, admitting Ukraine to NATO would not have been a militaristic move because, of course, NATO's articles only deal with self-defense if you're invaded. I have no problem with that. That being said, I can understand the ramifications of the shitty Western policies of neoliberal despots and morons that have led to the situation that we're now in. Putin didn't just decide one day, hey, you know what I want? I want another warm water port. I think I'm going to go and throw a meat wall at the Ukrainians. No, that's not what happened. That's what you'll be led to believe, maybe. The legacy media will effectively cast him off as a psychopath, just like it has multiple other people throughout history. And by the way, some of which were communists. Kim Jong-un, Donald Trump comes to mind. Fucking Rob DeSantis. Basically, if it wants to create a narrative, it'll tell you that the person's insane. And so the narrative is basically, well, they're doing insane things. Putin is not insane. He's old and he's power hungry and egotistical and realizes that if he doesn't do enough for the oligarchs there, he'll get knocked off and they'll replace him with someone who's, better trained, some younger KGB agent or something like that. But he's not an insane actor any more than Kim Jong-un is. That being said, we can condemn the concept of war and be sad about the fact that a bunch of people will die, while realizing that really the impetus for this is the weakness of the West. It's the weakness of the current U.S. leadership and its incapability to hold together NATO. Biden is not capable of holding NATO together. Right now, you've got Macron, you've got the British, not really Johnson, but in general, I suppose. Erdogan, certainly, in Turkey. And of course, the Germans. I can't remember the name of their prime minister now, actually. Angela Merkel has left. Some other goofy warmongering moron has come in her place. These people are all vying for a bigger slice of the pie. The problem with NATO, it was something that Trump tried to address. He attempted to address it. The idea that these countries were taking from NATO, taking the military support and not paying their fair share. Well, that was addressed, but the problem is Trump wasn't in long enough to address it fully. Again, leading to the situation we now find ourselves in today. Because we have a steward. We don't have a president. There is no U.S. president right now. Joe Biden is an asterisk. He is a steward. He is a mentally out to lunch goddamn vegetable. And a bunch of U.S. military generals who do not necessarily agree on policy are the ones that are calling the shots with regards to Ukraine. Yeah, it could cause World War III, potentially. I'm not predicting that. I'm hoping that it doesn't happen. And we'll talk about Taiwan separately because a lot of people are fixated on that as well. But Jesus. Anyway, let's get to some super chats because there are a million of them here. I probably should go back on the Rumble page. There are 1,500 people watching on Rumble and about 5,000 on YouTube at the moment. Interesting. And pardon my rant, by the way. I'll try to get to some chats. Jeffrey Duran, good morning, Sticks and Friends. Hope all is well for you all. Have an amazing day. Aloha from Maui, Hawaii. Well, Hawaii will probably get nuked, I guess, if Biden has his way. He'll take the irradiated bones, sell it to the Chinese as medicine, and make a good profit. Son of Tiamat, keep in mind that Sticks will always keep in mind when he should keep in mind. Keep in mind that he will say keep in mind frequently, so keep that in mind. Again, not necessarily a jovial subject, but I do appreciate the memeing. Kristen Robertson, 4 years of Trump, no war. 1 year of Biden, war. Yeah, it's interesting how Paul Krugman was so completely wrong. He was predicting if Trump gets elected, oh my God, World War III will begin. It'll be terrible. Everything will fall to pieces. Cats and dogs will be living together. Biden gets in there. The economic collapse he was predicting happens. The war he was predicting happens. What more? Go back through Paul Krugman's predictions and find all the weird shit that he said would happen if Trump was elected. And maybe we'll be able to build a roadmap of the future because actually Biden will be responsible for it actually occurring. James Bursey, think Biden will be able to use this to mask his failures, or will people see around the deception? Unfortunately, all the partisans will fall in line. Like what I said about, what's his name there? Let me bring up the tweet again. It's so surreal that I have to read it out a second time. I mean, this is insane. It feels a lot like being there when Iraq was invaded. Let's put it that way. Here is Brian Schatz, and he's known for United States Senator from Hawaii. So sorry, Hawaiians. It's our first commenter from Hawaii. Aloha. Yeah, keep in mind that this is one of your senators. It is more essential than ever that we rally around our president as he leads the free world in response. I mean, what free world at this point? That is my first point. If your instinct is to try to turn this into a partisan political advantage or a viral tweet, step off the stage. Why should I rally around Joe Biden, who was vice president when Crimea was invaded? He was the VP at the time. Did he not tell Barack, hey, I think that letting them invade Crimea is a bad idea. Maybe we should admit the rest of Ukraine to NATO preemptively while they're distracted in Crimea. We see that. There's nothing we can do about that at this point. Maybe the reset thing is a bad idea. Maybe we should do more. Maybe, I mean, Russia's not going to attack a NATO member. And the idea of having to buff up reinforcements in Latvia and Poland, Russia's not nuts. Not that nuts, at least. Right now, basically, the Taiwanese are probably the most nervous. And the other thing that I would say, and this is the other natural response to what's going on now, arm the population. Build a citizen militia in every Western nation, every Western aligned nation. Give guns out like candy. Guarantee people have a right to own a gun, an actual human right to defend themselves, their nation. Arm them all. Every single one of them, unless they're a violent felon or absolutely insane. In other words, if you're Joe Biden, you're not allowed to own a gun because you think it's a good idea if your home gets invaded, use a shotgun slug. Other than that, normal people, people who are actually with it mentally, they should all be armed. Probably at all times. You know, crime is soaring under Biden too. I hate to make this a little bit about the United States, but it does fit in with U.S. policy. You've got to understand the U.S. was the kingpin, the linchpin of NATO. The president of the United States, at least symbolically, is the de facto head of all of NATO. The de facto head of all of the Western countries. That's what they are. If you don't have any leadership, if the leader so-called is out to lunch like Joe Biden is, what the fuck do you expect to happen? Of course, the Russians decided to invade. They did this under Obama for a reason. They didn't do it under Trump for a reason. It wasn't because, whoa, Trump was their puppet. There was no reason. He was appeasing them. No, he hardlined them. He scrapped the intermediate range missile test treaty. And that was age old. The idea was, hey, these intermediate range missiles are the front line of nuclear weaponry, potentially could start World War III. He was ballsy enough to scrap that because the Russians decided to test a couple of missiles. Yeah, he didn't appease them. He was the one that did the Nord Stream sanctions initially, which Biden decided to get rid of. And now the Germans had to take the fore. But yes, Biden will absolutely, 100%, in fact, he already has. He will absolutely use this as a way to mask his failures. Wait until the State of the Union. If this hadn't happened, if Russia had waited another week, and this is coincidental, by the way, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If Russia had waited, just had some troops there and was like, we're kind of interested in these regions. They've declared autonomy. Maybe we'll invade someday. Biden would go into the State of the Union and he'd have to say, my economy sucks, the border sucks, everything about me sucks, I failed over and over, I'm really sorry. Now he gets to go in and cast himself off as the defender of the West, the defender of civilization. That's the whole point. I think the Russians chose this moment to invade, specifically so that would be the State of the Union, to try to buff up a person they know is weak. He is self-serving, egotistical, and weak. He's in the pocket of the Russians, arguably. Do you think that there's any dirt on Hunter Biden from his time in Ukraine, in one of those places where they're burning the papers right now? I don't doubt it. That's not even a conspiracy theory. That's just fucking common sense. We're going to go over to Rumble. I think we got a super chat there, but I'm going to try to read it. Keep in mind, Rumble always goes to the bottom when you get a new chat. And so when you have however many people are watching, almost 2,000, it's a little bit difficult. JZH for freedom. And it went to the bottom. JZ, and again, and again. I'm trying. It's a struggle, just like going over a Ukrainian road during the thaw. Oh, for the love of it. Would Taiwan be... Oh, God. Would Taiwan be next? CCP has been waiting for this opportunity for the last 7 decades. Possibly. Keep in mind, Taiwan is an island. Russia has huge land superiority. They've got a huge number of tanks, artillery, everything else, and a lot of manpower. For them to invade by land is more simple. China does not have a great naval capability. Taiwan's an island. it is a little bit apples to oranges. I'm still not red alert mode on Taiwan, but what we should be doing is pushing the Taiwanese to abandon any form of weapon control in the country, arm the whole population, fortify, and maybe we station nuclear weapons there, or at least US assets. Dare China to do something. But I've got a better solution. The better solution is just to sanction the Chinese. We kill two birds with one stone. We drain China of their money, and we drain Russia of theirs. I'll be making a video tomorrow about how the sanctions on Russia, you think that Putin gives a fucking shit about the sanctions on his country? He gets his money from the Chinese. They are the bankrollers of BRICS. He doesn't care if he gets sanctioned. Okay, a couple of industries went under. So sad. He can find other work for those people. He can put them in a rock quarry or something like that. He can put them in the salt mines. He gets his money directly from China. But the whack-ass goofballs that run the Western world, they're all invested in China. Hence the whole problem. China is at the center of this problem too. On my Substack, pinned on YouTube, of course, I mention this. China is partially to blame for this situation. Their particular rhetoric with regards to Taiwan and their actions with regards to financing have emboldened the Russians to do what they're doing now. While Putin may be the trigger man, he's the one centrally responsible because he's the executive of Russia. Biden's responsible by weakness. China's responsible by its propping up of that particular Eastern Bloc interest, if you want to go that far. The legacy media is responsible. They're making money right now. Do you know how many millions of dollars have been made in the last 24 hours by groups like CNN by peddling their warmongering clickbait? I bet you wouldn't want to know that much money. Not based on that level of blood. Predator, oh, no, Jesus. Predator poachers, how can I get in contact with you? You can use Twitter DM. I know that's not great for everyone, but that's what I use mainly. I don't like to give out my email unless it's for things that are explicitly work-related. Back on YouTube, Crazy Loon. Can't go to work because street's badly frozen. At least I get to watch Styx live. Yeah, I have a feeling there will be other live streams pertinent to this particular situation. Gerald Armstrong, what does Russia gain by holding the Chernobyl plant? Well, it happens to be in Ukraine, and they're trying to hold Ukraine, so I don't think that they're going to deliberately blow it up or something. After all, they did build, in part, the sarcophagus that's now covering it. But accidentally damaging a nuclear waste depot, not the greatest look, although that is speculative. Keep in mind, that could be just propaganda. We're not 100% sure mostly what's going on. I see videos posted every fucking 10 seconds, basically, on Twitter. Oh, this military vehicle was destroyed. It was Russian. It was Ukrainian, whatever. I don't fucking know. Most of the people watching don't know. Not unless they're into military history. Aaron Bennett, will this war help any Democrat frontrunner get elected into the presidency? Or will Trump be able to clinch the win even with this war in Ukraine? Well, Biden's definitely maneuvered himself to use it for self-benefit by saying that his bad economy is going to be the result of Russia sanctions. He made a video the other day. I reported on it as a New Tech exclusive. Well, these sanctions on Russia, they're going to drive the fuel costs up. It's going to be a big problem. But we have to weather it for patriotic purposes. We have to defend democracy. Motherfucker, your economy already had high inflation and huge price increases for a year and a month now. You're trying to blame it on something that's now contemporary. Of course. Of course he's going to use it for his own gain. All politicians will. By the way, so will Putin. Of course. Who wouldn't? Lapse of apathy. If anyone has been paying any attention, most of the wars in the Middle East, mainly Syria, have been proxy wars with Russia. Eurasia has always been at war with Oceania. Yes, and the one person that cared enough to wipe out ISIS, which was Trump, partially by withdrawing U.S. forces from areas so that Russia could operate, gets called a Russian pawn for caring about stomping out terrorists. I find that massively insane. Matthew Scallion. On a scale of 1 to 10, how worried should we be for a major war? A 10, because it already is one. As far as a war that seeps out over the borders of Ukraine, it's really, really hard to say. The problem is all the other neighboring countries are NATO members. So Russia's not going to attack directly. There could be, unfortunately, an incident. A missile accidentally went a mile too far. Whoops. That would be like the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was basically a semi-accidental incident as well. It's happened before. Spacious conclusion. If you're not interested in war, war is still interested in you. Yeah, unfortunately. If you're in the United States, if you're a male who's between, 18 and 28 or something, Wolf better. Can't wait to become a glowy in the dark. Just join the feds. Join the CIA. You can glow in the dark right now. You don't even have to get irradiated. Kristen Robertson. Is not the Russian military many times bigger than Ukraine? So would not total occupation be quick? Because I don't see a large destruction, mostly airports with military presence. Well, you want to take out the airfields first. You want to do targeted strikes. They're basically doing shock and awe Russian style. They do appear to be suffering attrition from the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainian government has armed a large number of its citizens. It is possible, and I'm not predicting this, it is possible the Ukrainians will actually fight them off. I mean, over that reasonably large land area with a militarized civilian population, it's possible. By the way, that'd be hilarious because it would embolden every Second Amendment aficionado in the United States. I don't know exactly what will happen. It's not even yet clear if Russia intends to actually annex the land in question or create a satellite state. It's not entirely clear. Joe Biden's dentures. Sticks, are you in a secure location? Do you smell any Russian MREs? Do you need a clank extraction force? I wish I had some Russian MREs. They're fairly good, I will admit. Better than the Ukrainian ones. I'm sorry to everyone who backs Ukraine explicitly. On the MRE military meal side, the Russians would win that particular engagement. Not saying that either of them is particularly good. Actually, I think the Australians win out most of all. Boraquadamus, war is never good. China will still buy gas from Russia. Russia, China, and North Korea can easily become a huge joint problem. I hate this. Yeah, well, then you hate the neoliberal globalist appeasement mission, because that's what caused this. It wasn't populism. As Mitt Romney says, America first was short-sighted. No, it wasn't. No, he was holding China's toes to the fire. He could have crushed the Chinese economy. This wouldn't have happened. Russia would not be doing this without Chinese money, just to be clear. Journey, Trials, and Joy. Welcome back to the Warring Europe states since the 1900s. Yeah, it's been a while since this particular sort of thing has happened, in all honesty. The Dashing Rogue. The Russians want war, Sticks. They wanted war since 1997. Look up the book, The Foundation of Geopolitics. The book explains why Russia needs Ukraine. It also talks about convincing the U.S. to isolate itself. Yeah, I mean, the Russian government wants war. What about the Russian people? I haven't heard from them. Same with the U.S. Every time a war begins, we say this nation wants to kill other nation. This group of people is so violent or something. When have the people actually spoken out? Mostly they seem to be anti-war. I don't think that the Russian people want war. I think that the Russian government wants war. And I think NATO is just completely flat-footed, caught completely flat-footed in the situation. Crazy Loon, who is crazier, Romney or Charles Manson? Romney, yeah, definitely. Romney's one of the craziest people in U.S. politics. He doesn't know what's going on. He's almost as bad as Biden. A crafty Huragok was always willing to be reasonable until I had to be unreasonable. Sometimes reasonable men do unreasonable things. Killdozer guy. Yeah, the Killdozer, definitely his manifesto makes sense. JM, prediction. Russia's goal will be to encircle Ukrainian forces, to trap them and force Kiev to surrender more of the Donbass. Possible. We're not exactly sure what they're going to try. And of course, the Ukrainians are fighting back. They have military hardware that is almost on par with the Russians, and they're fighting on their own soil. So there is that particular advantage. We're not sure what's going to happen. It could be the Russians get defeated. It's possible. The U.S. has gotten defeated in multiple incidents over the last few decades. Some jerk. Ukraine is a liability for Joe Biden and the Democrats, and they don't care if Russia invades Ukraine. It solves the problem for them. Oh, even better, it saves his State of the Union. Again, I will mention, it is totally coincidental that the State of the Union happens to be exactly 1 week after their forces began massing. That's coincidence. 5 days before the State of the Union, Russia invades Ukraine. That's a coincidence. There was no planning involved on the Russians' part. to try to prop up the Biden administration, to keep a weak, feckless, pathetic leadership, so-called, in DC. C Daddy Gaming. Military here. Our CO briefed us yesterday that we are essentially at war already. He even said we should be prepared for pair-level attacks and even nuclear conflict. I think they're blowing smoke. Yeah, well, I think they have to make that warning. They have to be cautionary all the time anyway within the military. They will always blow things a bit out of proportion, out of an abundance of caution. So I wouldn't worry too much about that at the moment, at least. Stay tuned to the Spoon Clank channel for all of the updates with regards to this. Silver Kestrel, off topic, but screw it. Who's your favorite Hell of a Boss character other than Stolas? Stolas' daughter, I guess. I don't know. Gerald Armstrong, imagine if Putin found all the documents about why Hunter got a job at Burisma. I'm sure that they've burned them already. I don't think they are extant anymore. Just going out on a limb there. Chicken tendies, is this what finally sinks the Dems come November? You would hope so, but actually it might help Joe Biden's approval. Being a wartime president, even if you're not physically, completely, totally at war with the other country, is a good thing within U.S. politics. Because then you can say that it's unpatriotic to oppose you. Well, you got to support the war effort. Now's the time to fall in line. By the way, we need more censorship of this disinfo. By the way, don't question anything. Harold V.O. America First populist isolationism is the way. I wouldn't call it isolationism. I would call it a reshuffling of power. In fact, it's almost anti-isolationism. If you gain more economic power, then you can branch out more. But you have to actually give a shit about your own borders in your own country first. And that's not something people like Biden and Obama want to do. It's a lot of chats. Lucas Casaletto, do you think this would have been solved if we just let Ukraine be a neutral state instead of insisting they enter into NATO? I think that there were two possible solutions. Number one, ban them from entering NATO. And hope the Russians don't respond because they don't feel threatened. That would be potentially a gamble, but you could do it. The other one is to, in the middle of the night, fast track, expedite their entry into NATO. But neither of these things were done. Instead, they kept up the ambiguity policy that didn't really work. And again, the proof is in the pudding. If it worked, then they wouldn't be invaded right now. Scarfy the Strange. So when do we send in guys from Battlefield Bad Company? I bet Haggard knows how to deal with them Ruskies. I don't know what you're referring to, actually. Robert McWaters, $9.99, no comment, thank you. Sidebrook VR. Here in Korea, already propaganda about Russian invasion is already a failure and Russians are being destroyed by U.S. weapons. That may not be propaganda. You got to understand that large segments of the Russian military don't have huge force readiness. They've got great tanks. They have great artillery and missiles. Some of their other vehicles and training is actually subpar. But we're not going to know that. I mean, that could be propaganda or it could be propaganda that they're doing fine. You're not going to know. I have no way of knowing. The closest thing we can have to knowing is getting clips and shit from Twitter and places like that. But those places are censored all to hell. Hence why you should use new tech. By the way, I am streaming on Rumble to 2,500 people. Just to be clear. Pasos Largos. How can the U.S. fight a war with the culture war going on? The top brass has been purged and the military has gone woke. Who is going to fight? Feminists, BLM, trans rights activists? This won't go well. That's only a little bit of the surface of the military. In all honesty, I'll say this on behalf of fucking even Biden's military proposals. That's basically branding to get more people to join because of a lack of manpower. That has nothing to do with the average grunt on the field. They're just as well trained as ever, by and large. The U.S. military, though, is not going to be involved with this. This is in Ukraine. We're a nuclear power. We can't go directly into confrontation with Russia without risking nuclear war. That won't happen, I don't think. Amazon, you can technically download YouTube videos from the source code. Search for video/MP4 and audio/MP4 before mimetype, copy from the last quotation up to HTTPS and replace U0026 with question mark. Or you can use a downloader. It is a little bit more simple. Generally, I have to download from Rumble now. I use what's it called? FastFit, I think. Treasure Troller, mostly peaceful invasion. Yes, by the way, let's address one other thing. There are some people on the right that are like the based Putin crowd that are cheering for this. Yeah, you're cheering on a man who's killing a bunch of other Europeans and creating hundreds of thousands of refugees. Putin's nuts too. The fact that Biden's out to lunch and NATO has done terrible things does not mean that Putin is a good person, and it does not mean that Russia's not expansionist and imperialist too. This is an excuse, essentially. Putin's sitting there rambling about denazification as a reason for invading eastern Ukraine. The dude's out to lunch almost as much as Biden is. It's just strategically, he's much more intelligent. Sebastian Monroe, why must I work when a happening is going on? See, I am at work. That's one of the joys of my job. Aaron Bennett, even if Biden was crazy enough to push for intervention in Ukraine, I don't think it will play out well. 20 years in Afghanistan already made us weary. You're not going to have an intervention directly in Ukraine. It's impossible. Jacob Isbell, will Taiwan be next, Sticks? Trump is predicting that is the case. And, he actually understands Eastern politics. So I'll just defer to him and say, yeah, the Chinese are salivating over the thought of annexing Taiwan right now. The problem is, again, Taiwan's an island and China's naval capabilities are not nearly as good as Russia's land capabilities. There's a difference. Way more manpower, but you need ships in order to move it. Doc Holliday. Sticks, do you think Squishy Pants Dementia will be able to lead an effective strategy of something or other to avoid further escalation? No, I think that Biden has already failed. That's why the invasion occurred. Sigilstone 17, Putin is a member of the World Economic Forum. This could only happen with approval. Makes you wonder what war they'll concoct next. Yeah, I mean, it's globalism in action. The idea that Russia's outside of globalism is horseshit. They're part of it. Putin knows what he's doing. He's an asshat too. He's just like Joe Biden. It's just, unlike Joe Biden, he's not demented at the same time. So he realizes, hey, I can make a little bit of a naughty here. Take over a couple of provinces with a warm water port. That's all I want. Maybe he wants to vacation there. He wants to not have to speak Ukrainian to the clerk. Out of breath 40. Let's start a meme. Justin Trudeau, aka Chicken Little. Yeah, it's funny. On the same day as this invasion, Justin Trudeau actually gave up the Emergency Powers Act. It's amazing how nobody's talking about that. The very coincidental timing of everything that's going on right now is totally coincidental. Gel Mibson, funny to see all the proud Azov battalions get fucked. They still live in 1943 and seem to have forgotten that the German army is gay now. Yeah. Well, then the Germans are more well-armed than most of the Europeans, just to be clear. The Vodka Haze. Anyone find it weird the capital of Ukraine went from Kiev to Kyiv? Should we refer to Moscow as Moskva? Probably. I think it has more to do with whether you're pronouncing it in the native language. Until recently, most things were anglicized with regards to pronunciation. Dionia Florensis. My brother speaks fluent Mandarin and has many friends in Taiwan. A lot of them are getting ready to emigrate to the Anglosphere and Europe. What they should do is start local activistic groups and get Taiwan to abandon the concept of gun control. Nobody's going to attack an island of, 30 million people or something if every single one of them has a sniper rifle. It'd be crazy to do so. Inky, have some money, spend it all in one place before it becomes worthless. Yes, that's another thing we have to talk about is inflation is going to skyrocket due to the Russian sanctions. To be clear, prices, if you think they're high now, wait a couple months. I would strongly urge everyone watching this cross platform, which is 10,000 people, I think, at the moment. I would strongly urge you, stock up on some of your basic goods, especially those that Ukraine's economy happens to have a lot of, like sunflower oil. I know some of you say seed oil's wrong, seed oil's evil. If you use sunflower oil, now would be a good time to get a couple of extra containers of it. I'm just saying that because it'll be twice as expensive in a couple of months, regardless of what happens with the actual war in Ukraine, by the way. Patrick C. The media needs a war for ratings. Yeah, they're trying to improve their lot in the world, I guess, right now. Spurger King. Krugman just wanted to sniff President Cheese pizza. Yeah. Fire Critch, my job posted an employee roster in the office with everyone's vax status. Is that illegal? Most of the employees are minors, including my little sis. I have no idea if it's illegal. I don't know. Reformed Sauron, Russian invasion of Ukraine and conflict is likely to be swift and quickly completed within a month or so. Given there will be months of aftermath before November, what's your midterm prediction as it stands right now? My midterm prediction remains the same. My prediction about short-term Biden approval, he probably rises as a result of this because he can blame Trump and bring back the Russia bullshit and all the other things that he's done anyway. It'll gain new relevance for a while. Marussia Dark, what do you think Putin's true motives are given we can't trust him? The idea of taking over Ukraine as a buffer to NATO makes no sense to me, given he'd then be directly next to 3 NATO countries, not one. Is this Danzig 2.0? Well, I mean, it's not about that. It's about the resources probably more than anything else, and projecting power. In Putin's mind, that's important. But he was pushed, not by NATO attempting to expand, because NATO is a defensive arrangement, so that's not really a provocation. He was tempted to do this by the fact that NATO no longer has a singular leader. It's fractured. And by doing this, maybe it'll fracture them further. It's a great idea. He is a genius, as Trump says, at least in that regard. Rico Zorro. Cheers all, clank clank with the trolley, ding ding with the bell, drink coffee with your dolly, live life as well, before we all burn in hell. There'll be a lot of people going to hell today. Inky sent another $1. No comment, thank you very much. Dean Green, will Mexico invade California soon as well? And should we do anything to stop them? No, Mexico is not a major military power, so don't worry about that. Worry more about the fact that the southern border just in general is not secure. FBI Global, NATO and US are the provocateurs by encroaching into Russian territory over the years and literally fomenting 2014 Ukraine coup. NATO and Biden use Ukraine as a proxy state to tax Russian gas and make millions off kickbacks. See Burisma. Yeah, Burisma is a problem. I would say the encroachment idea is bullshit, though, because NATO is a defensive arrangement. It's only invoked if an invasion, if an aggression has happened. If you look at the NATO countries, look at the invasions and fights that they've staged over the last few decades. They've been outside of the NATO framework. In many cases, other NATO members don't even join them. You'll remember shock and awe, the invasion of Iraq, etc. That's not a provocation of Russia. That's an excuse the Russians are using. This is Russia's invasion of a sovereign nation for no legitimate reason. But again, and this is the big caveat, you can't really blame Putin for throwing his weight around when the U.S. leadership is decrepit. There is no leader. Joe Biden's not a leader of anything. This is why this has happened. And it never happened under Trump. Just again, I will reiterate that over and over. Gundam Chief, forums I hang out on have all been saying sorts of things about why this happened, except for the fact that Biden's failures gave the excuse to do stuff. Yes, make sure to point that out to people. It was Joe Biden that punted the Nord Stream issue to the Germans. It was Joe Biden that did basically everything else with regards to this. There is someone at the door, but I have to ignore it, of course, because we are live. Drud 1995, greetings from the free state of Florida. Thank you very much. Actually, let me get the door really quickly. I'll do my duty. I'll be right back. Hello.
Hello. This is yours. Yeah.
Slightly.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.
All right, I have returned after mail delivery services were rendered. JDog 199, no comment, thank you. Yeah, people saying that I was being swatted. No, that was the neighbor for his package. The mail services in the Netherlands, a little bit odd. Let me see here. Michael Greco, why did the left switch to becoming pro-war? Because a Democrat happens to be in office. It's as simple as that, it really is. Jaegerbomb 2, if Putin is going to release Biden's dirty laundry to screw the US with political instability, Biden will go down as worst president in history. Fuck Joe Biden. No, he doesn't want to do that because Biden is one of the worst. If you've got a weak leader, you want to maintain them because they're not a threat to you. Why would he want to get rid of Joe Biden? Joe Biden's effectively helping him do his bidding. Clint Beechwood, I can see Chinese troop ships trying to make the voyage to Taiwan. None would make it. Many thousands of Chinese get sent down to Davy Jones' locker. Yeah, they do have anti-ship missiles in Taiwan. Just to be clear, it's a little bit different than the Ukrainian defenses. Although Ukraine is putting up a good fight, it's not entirely clear who's winning at the moment. Nor will it likely be clear, to be clear. Somebody saying, Spain has fire MREs by a wildlife prepper. I disagree. I thought the Spanish MRE was shit, actually. I think it goes Australia, US, Britain, and then probably... I've never tried an Italian MRE. They're supposedly the best, and the French. Yeah, I wasn't impressed by the French MREs, no. Denine-S, I just realized my nephew turns 15 this year, and my heart dropped. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. Pamela Kilponen, here in Finland, we've been watching this very closely. We have a bad history with their governments. We understand their mindset. Yeah, but the Finnish kicked the shit out of the Russians. You shouldn't worry too much. Look at the Winter War sometime. Rancho Patriot, Ukraine war equals squirrel. I don't know what you're talking about. Melkor Borgir, Russia has done nothing wrong. NATO encroachment has consequences. What NATO encroachment? The fact that the Ukraine officially petitioned to join NATO and there was an open question as to whether they join. Why would you consider it legitimate that you invade your neighbor because they might join another military alliance? Unless you have a big problem with that military alliance, which is something that Russia has gone out of its way to disclaim over time. No, we're not your opponent. I don't know what you're talking about. We're trying to be a normal nation. On that end, I will side with the West on that one. But people keep bringing up NATO as though it was meant to be an aggressive military alliance. Again, NATO articles aren't triggered until someone is invaded, aggressed towards. Josh Eternal, Ukraine can actually beat Russia. It's possible. It'll be, well, not funny, but it'd be ironic if that happened. Mackenzie Young, hey Sticks, congrats on the little one. Do you think that this, as this progresses, there will be any appetite or possibility of Biden getting 25th or impeached, especially after midterms? The West cannot continue to project this weakness long term. Yeah, that's the other possibility. Maybe they're just trying to kick Biden out. Get Kamala in there as though she'd be any better or something. Timothy Smith, in other words, Reuters.com and Taiwan reporting the 9 Chinese aircraft in its air defense zone. Yes, I did see that. It's interesting. Although that happens all the time, to be clear. That's not particularly abnormal. Joseph P. Biden. What? I killed my darn dog for a reason. Yes, he was it him or Romney that had the dog strapped to his roof? I think that was Romney, so maybe that's why he likes him so much. Volk Nasty, Sticks, is this red shirt versus brown shirt? Wikipedia has been burning the midnight oil, changing information regarding Ukraine and the neo-fascist Azov Battalion, Ukraine National Guard. No, this is Russia versus one of its neighbors more than anything else. Plenty of reasons why it's happening, but ultimately that's the boiled down central plot. It's just that the reasons behind it are dozens. Son of the D, what do you think of people that simp for Russia because they are not pushing CRT, unlimited abortions, or drag queen story hour in their country? I would tell them, look at the money. Russia gets a huge amount from China, another member of BRICS. What is China pushing in the West? Oh, that's right, critical race theory and drag queen story hour and things like that. They're on the side of globalism. They just want other people to suffer more than they do. Johnny Azul, rumors are floating that Jen Psaki will jump ship and head to MSNBC. Thoughts? That'd be hilarious if it happened. She'd be well welcomed there. She's really good at propaganda. Be great. Maybe I'll become an MSNBC viewer just to ridicule Peppermint Patty real life mode. Matthew Gee, $4.99. No comment. Thank you. Desiccated Corpse. The whole thing makes me want to play Red Alert 2. Makes me want to play Fallout 4. FBI Glowboy. The U.S. has zero moral authority to condemn military incursions. Please see Iraq, Yemen, Syria, Somalia, and Libya for reference. I will rot in Leavenworth before I fight another bullshit war. Yeah, I would agree. There is no moral authority to issue a condemnation of such things. That being said, again, the shoe fits on both feet in this situation. China invaded Vietnam a couple of times after condemning the U.S. for doing the same, and nearby nations. Russia has invaded Afghanistan. It's invaded Ukraine. This is the second time now. Georgia, etc. It happens with all the major players. None of them have any moral authority. The only thing is that we have the right to judge the situation fairly and see what's actually happening. In this situation, Russia has decided to invade a sovereign neighbor for no legitimate purpose. However, its invasion does make sense when you look at all of the reasons why it had to invade. None of which had anything to do with NATO expansion. That's just the catch-all that they're using. Harvey Quarry. Ukraine is a pseudo-country controlled by corrupt oligarchs. It is culturally and ethnically Russian and should be part of the Russian sphere. That was decided long ago, and they decided to leave because the Soviet Union sucked ass. Partially because of the fact that a bunch of ethnic Ukrainians were scattered around by the Stalinists. I'm sure that they didn't think too kindly of that. At one point, apparently, about 40% of all the grain in the Soviet Union came from Ukraine. They got fucked in the ass in return. I wonder why they wouldn't want to be part of Russia. Clint Beechwood, Taiwanese invasion equals huge Iwo Jima that has been preparing for years. Chinese troop ships making that voyage. None would make it. Thousands of them go down to J.V. Jones. Locker compliments of U.S. support. I don't think the U.S. would get directly involved. I think the Taiwanese could handle it themselves. Also, they now, I believe, have a military alliance with the Japanese, and at any given point, they can develop nukes within a month. So, Joseph P. Biden. It ain't Russia's fault. Ukraine can't do any push-ups. Again, I warn people, apparently a lot of the sunflower oil in the world comes from Ukraine, so I would stock up a little bit if you use that shit. Nordwolf 4, the target should be tech oligarchs, bankers, bureaucrats, and politicians. Hashtag no more brothers wars. Yeah, no, there shouldn't be any fighting. It'd be great if the Western Alliance and Russia could work together instead of fucking slaughtering each other like morons. But that's not happening at the moment. And this time it's not the U.S. fault. Dehuman Centipede. Hello again, Sticks. I sent you a DM on Twitter. Second, will Biden benefit from being a wartime president come November? Or will it be more of a bloodbath because of gas prices getting too high? Oh, it's going to be... If there was chaos for the midterms before, now it's palpable. I can't tell you the answer. It depends on how high the price hikes are. And they're talking about a gas holiday to try to offset some of that, which should show you how nervous they are, just to be clear. Arthur B. 726. Hello from Cleveland. Oh, from hell, in other words. Well, at least you're not in Detroit. John Hoyle. Is it now more likely that this allows any Mideast democracies to launch preemptive strikes against Iran? News is filled with them claiming they need to. That could happen. A little bit less likely, I think. Sho Sugino. Russia will always just want land. Sowell. Yeah, they want warm land. Yeah, not that Ukraine is necessarily a tropical climate, but it has a lot of grain. So, student of history, I'm going to go no boots in Ukraine, but perhaps anti-armor weapons because Ukraine should have the right to exist. Yeah, as far as the U.S. goes, sell them all the weapons in the world. Don't give them the weapons, sell them the weapons. They can do it on credit. If they win, they pay us back. That's fine. That's commerce. That's capitalism. I just think the U.S. government should also be making sure that U.S. citizens can get those weapons. What if we get invaded? Maybe Canada decides to go full War of 1812 again. We need to fight off the Canucks and have a day of the rake and cross their border too. Give us machine guns. Get rid of the NFA. Morgan Weiss, Stick, since you and many of us here know magic is real, would you be interested in organizing a group meditation for peace? I think Putin has different things in mind. I don't think meditation is going to change it. But yeah, that is, I mean, it's an interesting idea. Making positive thoughts and stuff is always good in the world. Steinkrieg. Nukes don't matter anymore. Both Russia and China can cripple the U.S. and most first world countries with cyber attacks on infrastructure. See pipeline cyber attack shut down last year in the U.S. Yes, but why would China want to shut down the largest buyer of its products? See, here's the globalist thing. That's all a ruse. That's all horseshit. The U.S. should wean itself off of China. That'd leave them bleeding. And if they were to do that, the same thing would happen. And China would go into a Great Depression. Scott Steiner, the world's greatest ring announcer. Tom Clancy wrote a book on the rise of China and Russia. China stabs Russia in the back. Russia joins NATO in order to stop China's expansion. Oh boy, wouldn't that be something? It's not impossible. China did stab Russia in the back on its gas deal back in 2013 or something like that. They had a pipeline deal, and at the last minute, Putin was in Beijing, actually. The Chinese said, no, we can't pay you as much as we initially agreed upon. Unilaterally changed the deal, and then he left early. Couch, my cat likes your cat in the background. He has a crush. Lone Wolf 36S, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or USD? Which do you think will flourish in the coming end times of death and destruction at Biden's hand under Putin's wrath and democratic ideological sociopathic fail fuckery? Lead will do better than any of those under that circumstance. Lead and seeds. And a water resource. Matthew Gee, have you heard any updates about Azov Battalion? Last I heard is benching them for now due to potentially being Nazis, but that might change. See, I mean, if you're fighting for sovereignty, why would it matter if you're Nazis? Just putting that out there. I would think that would be secondary. Oh, you're black nationalist. Well, you're not allowed to fight for your country. Oh, you have homophobic views. You like pineapple on pizza. We're not allowing you in the battalion. Ron Setz, speaking of WEF, thoughts on ESG, environmental social governance, aka corporate social credit score. Sounds like a Chinese policy. By the way, everyone, please don't send any more super chats. I don't even know how many I have in here to go through. This was basically just a riff on Mitt Romney. I ended up mainly answering super chats. Black Bull 77, remember kids, if John McCain comes back from the grave, that means 4 more years of war. If he comes back from the grave, the whole rest of the world will be in the grave. Highleaf 11, China's Navy can only patrol the coast of their country, and even then they have trouble with it. The only way they can do damage is to bombard the island, and even that is a bad idea. Agreed. I think Taiwan is a little bit more off the table than Ukraine. There's no land border involved. God of the Night, what do you think will happen if Ukraine falls? All hell breaks loose politically. As far as pragmatically, I guess a puppet government gets installed. It'll be a reversal of 2014 and nothing more. Jason Telesfero, 99 cents, no comment, thank you. Very angry citizen, NATO has become an offensive force. They were involved in the Middle East and Syria. And I opposed, of course, either of those things. But that doesn't mean that that's a little bit different than NATO is aggressing after Russia, which is the major nuclear power of the Eastern world. A little bit different. On Valkyrie Wings, is it just me or does this feel oddly personal against Biden and less tactical? Ukraine has basically 3 things: corn, iron, and natural gas. That's it. No, don't forget the fucking sunflower oil. But yeah, apparently they grow a huge amount of corn there. I didn't even know that. So yeah, the price of all of those vegetarian options, those fake meat substitutes for vegans, I guess they will be going up significantly. Well, I guess war has benefits after all. People have to eat actual meat. 3 Dark Lord, thoughts on Germany? Never want to see them. I'm not interested in visiting the Reich. Not interested in going to Naziville post-Merkel. Jason Telesvero, Is this the true never evade pressure Biden was talking about? Oh yeah, Biden and his word salad. Yeah, probably. But you'll never know. You never know what he means. Gob Gonson. Perhaps the U.S. should take a page out of Fallout lore and follow Russia's lead by annexing Canada, thus liberating the Canadian people from tyranny. I would support it. It seems like a lot of them would support it too, so why not? It's basically America's hat already. Just turn the provinces into states, not giving them, of course, senatorial power in the process. Too liberal. Ted Bosley, I love lamp. My lamps are out of camera view. I don't know what you're talking about. Chuck Fig, my favorite comments from today's, it would have still happened under Trump. Yeah, the funny thing is it wouldn't have. To Human Centipede, are you going to stay up and do a live reaction to Biden addressing the nation on the Ukraine situation? No, I think that this live stream is probably enough for that. I will be staying up late to do the State of the Union. That'll basically be the same thing. You think Biden's going to talk about the economy? Oh, about the border? No, he's got one thing to talk about, Russia. Music and fiction. I wonder about these U.S. biolabs in Ukraine. Yeah, imagine if one of those gets bombed, what gets out? Be like The Stand. Then Stephen King will finally be relevant in his opinions again. The crappy robot. Gee, why didn't Putin invade Ukraine when his so-called puppet was in the White House? Makes you think, don't it? Yes. But if you're a Biden fan, you're already not thinking. Julia68 YouTube. What are the odds that Russia's "it's the Nazis" and Ukraine's "we're in danger of corona" are just to deter Western media with their preferred BS and get out of their hair while they work things out one way or the other? Well, they're working them out one way or the other. It depends on what round is chambered in the gun. Kevin Lallement, $5. Thank you. No comment. Again, no more super chats, please, because, I've gone over an hour already here. This was just basically an update with regards to Mitt Romney and what's his name there, Brian Schatz and some of these other morons. NMAT, someone I was having an argument on social media. I have told them Putin and Russia will survive the sanctions, just like North Korea, Iran, Venezuela, but they didn't agree. Stick, sex, and hammer. Keep it up. Yeah, they'll survive the sanctions. Of course they will. Russia doesn't give a shit about the sanctions. How the hell did I do that? Oh, sorry about that. No, absolutely. The sanctions won't matter because they don't involve China. Denying S. To clarify, I worry about what happens if we are at war in 3 years. I wouldn't worry about the U.S. or other major Western players being at direct war with Russia. That's not what you have to worry about. What you have to worry about more is globalism that strangulates people's ability to have any independence forever. Hey, Blinken, 407 clanks ago. I'm just trying to do my Abe Lincoln voice. Brandon B. Brandon, Ukraine equals squirrel is a reference to the movie Up. It's implying that Ukraine is just a distraction. Well, yeah, I mean, you're not talking about Trudeau and the Emergencies Act going the way of the dinosaur or the scaling down of coronitarianism. A lot of things have been knocked off the table by the fact that Ukraine got invaded. I will say that that is very coincidental too. Just like the date being a few days before the State of the Union. Coincidence. Shh, don't talk about it no more, you conspiracy theorists. To Human Centipede, Biden is a great uniter. He's united people like AOC and Matt Gaetz against him if he decides to send troops over. Not sure if you heard about that. I don't think that'll happen. They'll run some sorties and give intel, as usual. CC, wonderful news to hear you are expecting a little bambina. Congratulations to you and the lady. Well, thank you very much. Omega Supreme with cheese. Putin looking at CIA who overthrow Ukraine elections, tried in Belarus a few years ago, and now Kazakhstan just a few months ago, securing his power. Yeah, but I mean, it's still an invasion. Let's just look at it for what it really is. He has effectively engaged in a war on a neighbor. It doesn't matter anything further. The dashing rogue. NATO keeps being brought up by pro-Eurasian Economic Union shills. Sticks, check your DMs via Twitter. I'll be in touch with you on further details. Yeah, Caleb Maupin's people. Idiots like that mainly. But some of these people, I mean, technically you're not wrong. NATO has, or at least nations under NATO, have aggressed. That's not wrong. They're correct. Something that I seek to oppose because I don't want it used as propaganda fodder in exactly the manner it's being used now. So that part's not wrong. And some of these people genuinely believe that. They're not shilling or anything like that, but others are shills, commies, Eastern blockers, blockheads, you could call them. Brian K.E., what would be the best move for conservatives to take this win from Biden? Do absolutely nothing and let him take the 4 because he will screw it up. It's as simple as that. Let him do exactly what he wants. He'll look weak in the process. Gel Bertoncini, isn't BRICS just holding back the Brie and postponing the inevitable fall of CS? Yeah, you could posit it that way, definitely. Although I don't know that Brazil would be part of the group not falling. So, John Lies, this is Trump's campaign winning strategy. I mean, if he could campaign on this. If Biden really fucks up, by the way, that does technically raise the odds of Trump running. And it's not unlikely. You think Biden's going to do a good job in diplomacy? Have you seen the last year? Kangaroo Bot, what has it been like in the Netherlands right now with everything going on in the world? Nobody cares. There's no change at all. Nobody wears masks in the stores. Nobody's panic buying, anything like that. Get your sunflower oil, though. Philip C. Sandoval, Brother Sticks, I've followed you for at least a decade now. I love everything you do. Congrats on the little sticks coming soon. Well, thank you very much. In a decade, that's a very long time. That puts you in the primordial position of being an original clanker. Emperor Soft Turtle, Taiwan versus West Taiwan, Winter War Anime Edition. Yes, keep in mind, there is no China. It's West Taiwan. The Taiwanese government is the sole legitimate governing body of all of China. Reform Sauron, Corn Pop scares Russia more than Joe Biden, and he wasn't even real. Yeah, I wonder if that story that he told actually ever took place. In all honesty, I have no clue. It's like, yeah, was he having a hallucination or a dementia moment, or was it genuine? I don't know. Sir Smokey, hello from Maine. I got my money on Ukraine on this. Don't know why, just do. Yeah, again, it is possible that Ukraine actually manages to fend off the Russians, which would be legendary. Biden would probably take credit for that too. What was the weapons that we sent him? Oh, you watch. If that happens, Biden will be the first person to gloat. Mr. Barefoot Blue Jean, have you heard about Turd Bowl owning 40% of Acutus Therapeutics and gets paid for every virus shot? No, I actually hadn't. I don't know what you're referring to. Please DM me with more details. Roger the Shrubber, with the coming midterm Democrat bloodbath, can we look forward to better Western leadership in the coming years? Maybe. Yeah, that's the hope. Get rid of the Dan Crenshaws and Mitt Romneys of the GOP. Get rid of, well, most of the Democrats other than the Manchin types. Clean house and get some populism in there so that we can actually get our tax money's worth. Stormcrow 900, Western leaders shouldn't be shocked. This is exactly what US and NATO did for Kosovo. Not our problem. Nothing in Ukraine worth dying for. Well, the Ukrainians are dying anyway. It is sad. A lot of the people that back Russia don't seem to admit to that. And Russians dying too. Imagine a lot of those dudes are conscripts. The Wizard MF, $10. No comment, thank you. God, I'm still going through all this shit. It's impossible to get to the bottom. Matthew Bobby, Big Igloo when? I don't know what that refers to either. Well, I don't get these fucking boomer references, or Zoomer for that matter. Plebe of Reason. Apparently, Ukraine produces 70% of world's refined neon gas used for chip making, and used to be used for neon lights back when things were aesthetically stylish. We need to get back to doing that. Get back to 1982 or so. El Bromas. Remember, Putin outfoxed Obama in Syria when John Kerry said Russia taking a peacekeeping role was a good idea. Now he outfoxed Biden. Yeah, and there's only one recent leader he didn't outfox. That's Donald Trump, the one that the legacy media claimed was controlled by Vladimir Putin. Philip Black. Thank you, Sticks. SO to Ukraine, the truckers, and all those who lost their lives like Roberta Paulson. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I guess nobody's talking about COVID today, by the way. So see, there's a positive thing. Russia's invading Ukraine stopped an epidemic, supposedly. The number of comments here is obscene. Romanian TV. Hello, V. V here. I love your political analysis, Sticks. Ever thought of working at CNN? They'd have to pay me a whole lot, and then I would just, I'd poop in the waste paper basket at work and make them miserable till they fired me. And then they'd be breaching contract. They'd have to pay me more. That's all you have to do. Go work for a legacy network, but make sure it's in the contract that they can't really terminate you unless they pay a fee. They have to give you a payoff, and then just act crazy. Just make sure you do it. Make sure there's some legal wiggle room in their rules. Make them miserable. Bendy trees. I'm a Serb and I agree with the Kosovo comments. This shit reminds me so much of the Bolshevik Revolution. Yeah, there's overlap with a bunch of other conflicts. I think I probably actually got to the bottom of the main comments there on StreamYard. But now I've got several, I think, on Rumble, actually. Irish Charm, Tomcat, TY. Makes sense. I surely wouldn't want the socialist UN at my border to possibly one day advance into my country. Russia's socialistic too. There's a lot of central planning that goes on in Russia. You can't do anything without Putin's permission. It's the same thing. This is the false dichotomy thing playing out in real life, and a lot of people actually believe it. But the Clank Wizard's not taking in by it. I know what's going on. Rel 21,000. Why do you think none of the reporters asked Biden if he had the bug? And what did he take to get rid of it? Is he the only one in the White House washing his hands? I don't even think he can wash his own ass at this point. To be clear. Hey, Blinken, will baby sticks clank properly with the plastic baby spoons we use today? There are no plastic spoons in this household, just to be clear. You can get a little teaspoon or something. Something vintage, a silver teaspoon or something. John Cordisco's Corner. My channel is being shadow banned badly. Can I get a shout out? Thanks. Yes, to all of you watching cross-platform. John Cordisco, also known as Cordisco's Corner. Go and check him out. No Legs McGee. What are your thoughts on NATO itself? I have mixed thoughts on NATO. On the one hand, it is the right of nations to defend themselves. And if they want to do that collectively, that's fine. On the other hand, it can be violative in general senses if it's used for anything other than strict defense. And defense alliances tend to be used that way. You get a false flag here, a Reichstag burning there. Matthew Gee, I agree completely that ideology shouldn't matter when it comes to national defense. However, my update on Azov is like a week old. Yeah, I don't have any further updates on that. Sean, what is your opinion on the EU, UK, US scrambling to put more sanctions on Russia when their economy, as people say, is the size of New York City? Not going to be effective? It's not going to be effective because it doesn't impact China. It's an empty gesture. It's a ruse. The Western governments don't really give a shit about what Russia's doing. They're just grandstanding for political reasons to bring forth more authoritarianism and globalism. If they cared, they would sanction China. But then they would lose money because they're all invested in China. They're not going to do that. They're pussies. Horwitz, Feinberg, and Horwitz. What is the BLU count currently? We are at, what would that be actually? Like 22 BLUs, roughly. I don't know how many on Rumble. I think we're at 7 or 8 BLUs on Rumble. There's over 2,000 people watching there. You should, if you are not watching me on Rumble, keep in mind all my live streams are there and you should be watching me. And also, there is a pinned comment for those that were watching here on YouTube. I'll be going off in a minute here, but just the last little thing. There is a pinned comment in chat, which will do the replay thing. So if you're not watching live, you can see it there too. To the Substack that I made with my thoughts on who's responsible most centrally for the situation right now in Russia. Yeah, and over 200 people apparently watching on Twitch as well. Including weirdos like Daskis Cirque, piece of shit Americans. Yes, we are clearly responsible for Putin deciding to invade Ukraine. Dude, we don't even have any leadership right now. We're not the ones leading NATO. Blame Macron. Blame Macron or someone like that. The ones, they're actually coherent. Their chief executives actually will show up to a meeting and understand what's going on. You can't blame the United States for fucking anything right now. It doesn't have a chief executive. We're on Twitch. We're the weird ones. Yeah, I do feel at home among the crowd on Twitch. It's a little bit more edgy. Like, there's more. Most of it is trolling. Works for me. Now I just got to organize raids on other people's channels or something. I got to figure out what I'm doing. I got to have some more fun with that. We do have some more chats. Please don't send any more super chats. I will get through the last couple here. Joe F. Reddit libertarians with TDS and cussing out Tucker. Lol. Yeah, as a pragmatic libertarian, Trump did a good job on this situation. It's Biden that has helped cause this current conflict. Trig1211. Were you pro NATO actions in Kosovo, Bosnia, and Croatia? Keep up the good work. A little bit before my time, per se. I'm against Western actions in general in Iraq and Afghanistan, although basically it was the same as the Soviets doing similarly. I'm against this invasion. Never met a war that I didn't like, which is why I can't be a Republican. Desiccated corpse. Hypothetical. Biden has dementia moment and decides to start war with Russia. World War III starts and ends with Biden pooping himself again and mutually assured destruction. Yeah, I mean, imagine if he thinks the little red button is what he has to press to wipe his ass. Oh, man, you developed a robot bidet or something like that. He presses it and everyone's blowing up and he's just sitting there shitting himself wildly. That'd probably be what he would do, too. I hate to say it, but again, the so-called leader of the United States is out to lunch and we've got a major war on the doorstep of Europe. So, whoops. KGB at the door. No, that beeping noise is actually the dryer. Another reason why I have to go off here. Or is it the washer? Can't remember exactly. But anyway, yeah, I'll go off here. I will probably, I may do another live stream other than the Sunday stream this weekend because this is major news. What day of the week is it actually? Okay, so Saturday's the 26th, 27th, and then the State of the Union's on the 1st. So probably 3 live streams in fairly short order at the very least. And Timothy Smith, we couldn't go without this one. Breaking news, France has already surrendered. Yes, Macron is also partially to blame for the situation because he tried to do the big boy thing and get inserted in order to do diplomacy because Biden clearly, he doesn't know what he's doing. Macron tried to take the fore and still failed. I wonder if the French people will punish him politically for this. But anyway, yes, I will be going off now. I did enjoy this time, although the subject matter is kind of grave humor at best. But you got to clank on. Yeah, the world continues to turn, even if mankind ghoulifies themselves and turns into a bunch of fucking useless piles of ash. Always a possibility. That's about all. Peace out.